Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this special panel hosted by We the World. My name is Birgit Ben-Eli, and I'm the Director of Strategic and Global Engagement for We the World. It is truly a privilege to welcome you into our global community. On behalf of our entire network, it is a profound honor to convene this conversation. It is part of our ongoing commitment to bringing together civil society leaders, policymakers, grassroots organizers, and global institutions in a shared commitment to action. At We the World, our mission is simple yet ambitious: to unite people and movements across sectors and continents so that collaboration becomes our greatest tool for change. Each year, the observance honoring Martin Luther King Jr. invites us to pause, reflect, and recommit ourselves to this enduring legacy. Dr. King taught us that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Today, we bring that timeless truth into the defining challenges of our era: the critical intersection of women, peace, and security agenda and the climate crisis. The dialogue centers on three separate realities: gender-based violence, climate justice, and the full participation of women in peace and security efforts. These are not isolated issues, they are interconnected pillars of global stability. Global stability depends on addressing them together, not in isolation. Without safety from violence, community cannot thrive. Without climate stability, peace cannot endure. Without women at the decision-making table, justice remains incomplete. This is why we are here today, not only to reflect, but to align, to collaborate, and to act. Welcome to this important dialogue. Before we introduce our incredible speakers, I want to say a few words about who we are. We the World was founded by Rick Olphig, a visionary leader dedicated to uniting people and organizations across sectors to accelerate positive global change. What began as a bold idea that collaboration across movements could multiply impact has grown into a global action network connecting grassroots initiatives with international policy and public engagement. Under Rick's leadership, We the World has championed the belief that lasting transformation happens when we align humanitarian action, sustainable development, and peace building through initiatives like 11 Days of Global Unity, the We campaign, and Trends in Global Grassroots Organizing magazine. The organization amplifies solutions while fostering global solidarity. At its core, We the World exists to remind us that our challenges are shared, and so are our solutions. Today, we are joined by two distinguished global experts whose work aligns closely with We the World's mission. Dr. Nabaneeta Rudra, a development leader with over 20 years of expertise in climate resilience, sustainable water and natural resource management, and environmental policy in India. She has worked with national ministries, UN agencies, and multilateral banks to design and scale community-based climate solutions. Her expertise spans system thinking, program governance, and nurturing high-performing, inclusive teams. Her work has advanced climate resilient development for some of India's most vulnerable communities. Welcome, Dr. Nabaneeta Rudra. And our second guest is Subrata Banerjee. He's a global leader, a global gender and child rights expert with 18 years of experience in policy, reform, and advocacy, working with United Nations agencies and governments across Asia, Africa, and Europe. Subrata also serves as Senior Advisor for International Development and Public Policy for We the World. His leadership ensures that our climate and development work remains anchored in gender justice and the woman, peace, and security framework. Both, thank you so much for being here and welcome to today's panel. Each speaker will share now their expertise. And I begin with you, Dr. Nabaneeta Rudra. Nabaneeta, you will illuminate the vital link between gender, climate change, and peace. Please, it's your
Thank you.
platform.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving this topic. Actually, gender, climate, and peace is a critical nexus, I would say, in global policy and practice. Many times when we talk about gender, climate, and peace, and we think that these are different pieces moving together, or may be moving not moving parallelly, but these things are so interconnected that we should actually understand them together and see that how it is helping or not helping in in existing inequalities. So I will start with climate change. So climate change is deepening the existing inequalities, as we all know. Why? Because climate shocks such as droughts, floods, heat waves are already intensifying. If you see Southeast Asia, it is already intensifying the competition over land, water, and livelihood. Now, why women? Because women is mostly connected to natural resources. If we talk about natural resources, all activities related to natural resources are mostly done by women. Women and girls are often more exposed to climate risk due to unequal access to land, finance, technology, mobility, and decision making. If you see in India, only 12.8% women has access to land rights, and that's absolutely not done, right? Because they are the one who are working on land, water. They are the people who are spending their lot of time, a significant portion of their life, in collecting water, in collecting fuel, in helping to food insecurity, in actually also working for health burdens to reduce their resilience and social stability. What we see that where women's right and participations are limited, we have seen that communities tend to have weaker institution and lower adaptive capacity. Climate induced displacement always disrupts social networks and governance system. This increases a tension between displaced and host communities. If there is a climate stress in unequal societies, it has actually heightened the domestic violence. Early marriages happens, trafficking happens, social fragmentation happens. Women and girls face the heightened risk of exploitation and violence in displaced and post-disaster settings. Because we are working a lot in fragile context, so I can tell you from my experience that these stresses always extravagate the grievances, social tension, and violence. And because this is happening, it all jointly undermines peace. We all know that women plays key role in natural resource management, early warning systems, humanitarian responses, and local conflict mediation. But many a times we see that the policies are blind. They don't seek information from women. They don't consult women when they are getting drafted. There are examples that peace processes that include women are most likely to lend to durable and inclusive peace outcomes. Now, it is so that then why this gap? There's a question behind why this gap. If so, if women are linked, if women have has better knowledge than their counterparts, then why this gap? Because our policies, many times our policies have blind spots. Many climate and peace frameworks fail to integrate gender as cross-cutting lens. There are evidence gaps. We do not have data, limited data. So if there is no data, then how we will see the gender roles, how it is shaping resilience, and how it has, whether it has a conflict dynamics or not, we don't know. And there are implementation challenges as well. Difficulty, there's a difficult to translate global principles to local principles and context specific action. Since we do not have data, since the policy has a blind spot, we are not able to translate the global principles to local context. And uh, unless the interventions are context specific, they are not going to give result. So further, there's a need to have a gender responsive climate action which can help preventing conflicts. If climate policies and projects are mandated to empower women economically and socially, then they can reduce vulnerability. And this can also reduce the underlying factors of inequality. Thereby, it will be able to reduce conflict and then only peace can be established. So you can see these three pieces, gender, women, and climate, are not separate pieces. They have to work together. They are like pieces of jigsaw puzzle, which can, if they are going together, then only it is going to give a result. Further, it is important then that we have an inclusive climate action which can strengthen trust, cooperation, and social cohesion at the community and national level. Gender inequality always weakens the resilience. Addressing gender, climate, and peace together is therefore essential to prevent resilience and sustaining peace. There are a couple of global frameworks like United Nations framework, that UN Security Council's framework, UN Women's framework, UNDP's gender responsive climate action frameworks. But these all are linking gender, peace, and climate change. But there's a need to translate these policies to at the local level, the way community needs. But many of the programs, climate have has a mandate of climate change, has a mandate of resilience building, but they generally do not prepared with the communities. Unless they prepare those frameworks, those programs, they design them with the communities, no action is going to happen, because many times community do not own them. Unless they own them, they are not going to adapt those practices. So hence it is very important that these programs are built properly, developed properly, considering the local need, the local dynamics, the intersectionalities. Unless this happens, the gender, climate, and peace, the critical nexus will remain. So, Brigadier, I just wanted to tell you about this. This is the thing which I wanted to place to the table, and then we can discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nabaneeta, for sharing your expertise and to also, on what is probably one of the greatest challenges in our era. And I appreciate also your phrase of gender transformative adaptation, and that is really, the distinction is really critical. And because inclusion is not enough, right? Transformation means more than that. It means shifting governance system, restructuring, resource control, rebalancing power. But let us move on to Subrata and have him give him the floor here for his presentation, and then we can discuss after together. Subrata, the floor is yours. Welcome, and thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Birgit, for giving me this opportunity to discuss about these important issues and challenges of our time. And today, I'll be talking a few words about the gender-based violence, women, peace and security, and especially women in conflict regions, what is happening around the world. And while we are talking about gender and equality, it means a lot of things, not only for academic discourse or any kind of formal discussions, but it is also practically very much important in our daily life, from family to community to state as well as national, international levels. In everywhere, women's presence and their active role is extremely important in different echelon of the governance, at different echelon of society, community, even in day-to-day decision-making systems of a family. Because we all grew up in the family, then we learn how to behave within the community, then within the state, within the international community. So family as an unit of this kind of this kind of our understanding, the some of the values, some of the principles, some of the ideas that we need to grow with, and we will contribute in future course of time in regard to gender equality and in regard to resolution, in regard to resolving the problem, issues and challenges of gender inequality issues around the world. And while we are talking about gender-based violence or women, peace and security, so first of all, we can think of, and the question, big question is, why it is we are calling about women, peace and security. Women, peace, security is one of the most important and vital ideas that integrate people not only at the state level, national level, or of the international level, but it also help to produce lots of good results within our system, within our culture, within our governing areas. Like if we say that women should be at the center of all kinds of decision making policies, including peace and security, and it must be included at all levels. And there is demonstrating lots of data are available that says that if women are not in the decision making system, then we will face lots of problems and issues and challenges. But when we are including women at the center of decision making, it will not only ensure gender equality, but it also crucial for political stability and economic progress of any society. Women's action at the same time in the peace process, arbitration and negotiation, and particularly in this area, are also very, very important, because when there is a reconstruction period during the in the post conflict period, so women's role are very much important, like inclusion of women in that particular time. Broader, it will not only help to broader economy, but also create jobs. It also advances inclusive prosperity for all of us. So at the same time, when we are talking about WPS or Women, Peace, Security, it has been international priority for 25 years. In 2000, there is one resolution, 1325 resolution passed by United Nations. It says strongly about the women's involvement in the decision-making process, and it says the important role of women in the prevention, resolution of conflict, and in peace building. Look, three areas is extremely important. One is prevention, one is resolution and conflict, and another the participation in the peace process and the peace building. And it United Nations also stressed the importance of their equal participation, women's equal participation and full involvement in all efforts for the maintenance of promotion of peace and security. So without women, we cannot think of that. But right at the moment, it is under threat because of budget, problems of budget. We don't have finance. Lots of women rights organizations, they are not funding well. And at the same time, we have seen growing violence within the workplace. That creates a big problem for all of us. We need to resolve them, and we have to move with the progressive ideas of women, peace, security at all levels of our society. So if we talk about gender violence, so as we see that especially in the conflict related areas, violence is surging everywhere. And according to UN Women report, that 87% in 2 years, 676 million people living under conflict zone. So it's very challenging time that we are passing today. Within the 2 years, so next 15 last 15 years, the violence conflict are everywhere around the world. We will be discussing this after some time, but in this period of time we are going through critical challenges of human society. And it says that the prevalence of this violence protecting women's rights, ensuring ensuring their participation in the peace process, and the violence of protect in the peace process. Despite this, the women are largely excluded from negotiation while facing rising risk of sexual violence, displacement, and increased maternal mortality rate. So it is very, very difficult in this time and the situation, the increased risk of violence. Even if when women are taking part in the peace process and the negotiation process, they are facing this kind of backlash of gender equality, and they are facing the challenges of gender-based violence. So why gender-based violence? Why it is happening? Because in our patriarchal society, within the community, within the family, within the larger, broad areas, we see that gender-based violence is indeed a tool, indeed a weapon. This is the like rape or sexual assault are systematically used to destroy communities, terrorize, and create fear psychosis among the community, among the large number of population. So it is widespread. This kind of violence is widespread, and conflict, this kind of conflict exacerbated in some areas like forced marriage, forced pregnancies, as well as sexual slavery and mental, physical torture of women. At the same time, there is a risk of post-conflict risk. Violence often persists post-conflict areas where you will see the breakdown of laws, breakdown of justice system, in which women are facing one of the most critical challenges of their life. So in that particular area, we will think that women peace and security under the resolution of UN. UN is saying the four areas that we need to think about very seriously. One is prevention, prevention of addressing root causes of inequality to prevent conflict. As we said, that inequality and violence against women is directly linked with gender inequality. So if there is no gender inequality, if there is a respectability among men and women, then there should not be any kind of violence against women or gender-based violence. So we need to understand the challenges and the root causes of this kind of problems. Then it's a problem we need to have thinking of prevention, addressing root causes of inequality to prevent conflict, protection, safeguarding women from violence, and ensuring access to justice. As we said, that not only the violence, but the perpetrators of violence is covering up instantly the evidences of violence, this kind of violence. So we have to make it sure that perpetrators should be booked by the law and should be given enough punishment in that particular area. And the participation, including women, as we said, that women's involvement in the peace process, conflict resolution is extremely important, be it in an institutional level, be it at community level, be it national level, be it in international level. So in that regard, it is extremely important. At the same time, we need relief and recovery, meeting the specific needs of women in humanitarian context. Why humanitarian context? Because we see that there is a large number of war, violence, conflict around the world in Asia, Africa, Middle East, America, North America, Latin America, everywhere there is a lots of violence, conflicts are there right at the moment. Now, what are the key challenges? As we said, that 676 millions of women live within the 50-kilometer radius of the violence. So it is very, very dangerous situation right at the moment. 676 million women. They lack the representation. As of June 2024, women were only 10% of the negotiators and 14% of mediators in peace processes, as per the report of UN Women. So look, who are the more than 70%, 80%, and 90% are there? Men are there. Who are the men? Though especially those who are perpetrators of violence, those who are engaged in violence, they are in the peace process to turn over this kind of peace process and the justice system. That creates a big problem for the resolution of the conflict. Then again, funding gap, as we said, then there is a, if we see that the conflict, as we said, that worldwide violence, then there are some countries that are facing critical challenges of our time. One is Ukraine, another is Afghanistan, and there is Iran, and there is Palestine. So these four countries are extremely vulnerable situation. I can define certain kind of issues and challenges they are facing. So still till 2022, 2026, there are 401 cases of conflict related sexual violence, only sexual violence, and 401 cases in Ukraine. And victims' demographics are extremely important to understand. And scale, even human rights investigators estimate that actual number of victims might be thousands. So it is official records 400, but it should have been thousands. And the evidence is there and the systemize why there is a rape and violence against women, because the systematic weapon of the war often occurring in the occupied areas, sometimes with victims subjected to gang rape, forced to watch the abuse of family members and executed afterwards. Can you imagine? We have seen many reports that is happening in Ukraine, that after committing gang rape, after committing this kind of crime by the opponent party, the aggressor country, they also killed the women on the spot. So it's a horrible situation, and not one, but hundreds of thousands of women are suffering like this. And at the same time, we can see that how it is happening. It's many regions of Ukraine, like Kiev, like Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Donbass, and Mariupol. In these particular provinces, extreme situations are there. And it says that, according to UN reports, that they attacked, not only they not only spared, not only attacking civilians, but also they are not sparing the big institutions like healthcare centers and education. There are 340 educational institutions they attacked, and there are 2,591 healthcare centers, hospitals, including children's hospitals, were attacked. Just imagine this kind of hospitals they are attacking. Who are there in the hospitals? Most of them, they are injured. The defenders and the military personnel who are admitted into the hospital, they are taking rest, they are taking treatment, and even they are taking treatment in the hospitals, they will not allow them to live and to sustain their life. So that is why they are bombing these hospitals. So it is horrible situation, and the members of severe casualties is extremely high. This date, more than 15,000 people were killed in the front. And you will see that 182 civilians were summarily executed. Just imagine, summarily executed, with 40 dying in the detention. 84% were subjected for torture, humiliation, and torture. So this is the case of Ukraine. Now, if we go to Afghanistan, you will see that between 22 to 2024, you will see that women and girls were reportedly killed in many of them, and 50% of them are subjected to such kind of violence by the state. The Taliban, as a state leader, they are killing these women, more than 50% of women. So it is extremely important, and they publicly executed 150 women offenders, for what reasons? Now they are running away from home, or illicit relationship. So recently they have passed a very serious law, Sharia law. It says under the Article 32 and 34, it says that it is very much alarming for the international community to understand that legally husbands are permitted to administer physical and mental harassment to women and children, classified as discriminatory discipline, provided it does not result in broken bones, open wounds, or visible bruising. Now, what kind of justice is there? The justice is also very much horrible. Where serious injury does occur, the maximum prison sentence for the husband is only 15 days. And for women, if they found under Article 34, it says, the stipulates that women who visits her relatives visit relatives home without husband permission, or who refuses to return home on the demand of his husband, can be imprisoned for up to 3 months. Just imagine. So this is one kind of things happening in Afghanistan. In Iran, is extremely horrible situation is happening. Just 11 months, 1,800 people were executed. They hanged, and out of them are 615 are hanged only in 2 months. Among the victims are lead 57 are women. Recently, a large number of women are also executed in Iran, and it is marking 70% increase in comparison to the last year. So the violence is increasing, and this torture is increasing everywhere, including Ukraine, Iran. Now, there is another state is Palestine. In Palestine, it is saying that the international humanitarian organizations, rights organization, they are saying there are 33,000 girls and women are killed by the Israel military during 23 to 25. So it's a horrible situation. And in 2026 ongoing, as of February, reports indicate that more than 70,000 Palestinians have been killed in total since the war began in 2023. So it's a horrible situation. Now we see that there are the reports that PDM of Sweden, as one of the very renowned publication of reports that measuring democracy around the world. It says, I note their comments. Democracy Report 2025 finds that 72% of the global population is living under autocracies. The highest share of 1978, this third wave of autocratization means non-democratic regimes now outnumber democracies, with 45 countries experiencing democratic decline. This is a horrible situation around the world. That is why violence is directly responsible, directly contributing to this kind of situation of conflict, violence, war around the world. So how it is impacted the women and this kind of conflict that we will be discussing, the rising of conflict. In 2024, according to Women Report, there's a 185 armed conflict they are facing. Approximate, as we said, 676 millions of women are suffered, girls live in this conflict situation. Violence is also already occurred, and 4,600 cases of conflict-related sexual violence occurred. Displacement happened. When there is displacement, you will understand that they are facing more problems of violence, conflict, and murder also. And they also displacement, during the displacement they also lost their livelihood, job, and there is a acute crisis of food, and there is an attack on the healthcare infrastructure, as we said, that in overall in 2024 1,647 reported attacks on healthcare institutions globally. So it is very, very important to understand. At the same time, girls' education under fire. Over 85 million children affected by crisis are around the schools, colleges, and technical institutions, and including 5 millions of girls in Sudan. And there are in Taliban, after Taliban takeover, 8 out of 10 young Afghan women excluded from education, jobs, training. So they are doing this kind of violence oppressive rule, implementing this kind of oppressive rule in Taliban in Afghanistan. Women's voices in media. CARE found that while media coverage conflicts increased more than six-fold between 2013 to 2023, only 5% articles focused on women's experience of war. So, like, it is also the responsibility of the press media to highlight this kind of situation, to understand, to our the global community, international community, what are the horrible situations are happening for mass awareness and protest movement around the world. And at the same time, women's leadership in the crisis is extremely important. And in 1995, it's long back, Beijing Declaration already declared that platform of action, that women's equal representation and leadership role in parliament is extremely important. But still, this is not happening till today. Now we will discuss that how many women heads or states are in the world. It's only 29 countries in the world. Among them are Mexico, Namibia, North Macedonia, Japan, Moldova, Tanzania, Slovenia, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Marshall Islands, Iceland, Italy, Denmark, and Democratic Republic of Congo. But the problem is, the question is, where women are there at the leadership position, everything is there able to manage, or patriarchy is still there. They are managing all this behind the scene. That creates another problems, not only for the women, for the entire society at large. Then we can say the women lawmakers in 2025 around the world, only 27% national parliamentarians worldwide. In India, the case is very, very pathetic. In India, it's only 13% of India's foreign missions led by women, only 13%. And women's representation in parliament is only 14%, less than 14%. So it is, and while it is in USA, it is 28%. So it is half. Another thing is that we need to have key recommendations for these kind of things that regarding gender-based violence and women's peace security, women's involvement and equal representation, that is 50% representation and equal leadership role in peace building and negotiation process of peace building. So we need a lot of understanding of this. We can recommend this reform legal system, strengthen system to ensure prevention of violence, measures at all levels of governance, social, economic, political, and workplaces. Strengthen accountable governing systems from local to national levels, and public authority has to be accountable to prevent and response of such kind of violence. Women's equal representation and leadership roles in conflict, negotiation, peace building institutions, extremely important. Strengthen accountability of perpetrators of sexual violence and strong violence prevention mechanism through by justice system mechanisms and administrative systems of the government. Build up women's agencies at local and international levels, strengthening women's agencies with training, capacity building, mass awareness program, networking with civil society organization, UN missions, and law and order institutions at the national level. Increase funding of women's organization in conflict zones and increase gender budget from local governance to the national governance. Plan, execute relevant programs to avert any kind of violence against women. Ensure meaningful participation of women in all peace and security decision making. Provide comprehensive survivor center support services in collaboration with civil society, healthcare institution, legal forums, legal aid services, local clubs, and community also. So, what kind of things we will be doing now that recently PRIO, that means Peace Research Institute of Oslo under the Oslo University and Georgetown University of USA, they collaborating with each other, and they are doing research and they are doing lots of work on these issues, women, peace, and security. In their recent report on the in regard to the index of violence against women around the world, they are saying very interesting few things. I am just reading out their messages. They are saying WPS index findings show that women's status has the strongest correlation with the positive peace and fragility, making gender responsive policy not only optional but essential, especially at a time of mounting global crisis. And there is some examples. Progress is stalling, but hope is not lost. How? Globally gain in women's status are stagnating or reversing. Yet some of this tipping improvement since 1917, we found that in most fragile states, providing that positive change for women is possible, even in the most challenging conditions of Ukraine. How Ukraine illustrates both the devastating of the war and the resilience of the women of Russia's full-scale invasion has driven 42% decline of Ukraine's security dimension. That just imagine 42% since 1917. Yet Ukraine leads the fragile state group of women's formal, informal access to justice and their political and socio-economic inclusion, evidencing Ukrainians' women's leadership and urgent call for more nuanced assessment of Ukrainian women's status and sustained international effort. So, in that regard, we understand how the things are going on. Obviously, it refers to the unprecedented crisis and global surge of violence, war, conflict, and gender based violence across North America, Latin America, Asia, Europe, Middle East, which are directly linked to emergence of atrocious autocracy, which misuse and abuse their own political systems to create both national crises and crises in foreign countries every day through conspiracy with like-minded autocrats and engaging in deceptive politics, destabilizing governments both within and foreign countries, dismantling democracy, plundering national and international economic resources, suppress scientific community, silencing voices about democracy at gunpoint, and promoting cult image to consolidate and execute more power, oppressive power, dictatorship, support, promote active women leadership role in peace and security, democracy and development across the world. That's why extremely important. If we don't do this, then it will be critical crisis ahead of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Subrata, for your powerful overview in the complexities of gender-based violence in the security and conflict regions. Both of you remind us that peace is not merely the absence of tension. It's, as Dr. King famously said, it's the presence of justice. And Subrata, you and that applies again to both of you. You mentioned the key to end the key cycle: prevention, protection, and participation. We know how important participation is, and it is well documented in peace and research. That it shows that if women participate, and both of you know that, and Nabaneeta, I bring you in here now as well. That as they participate, peace makes progress. Agreements are significantly more durable. So that's not moral rhetoric; it's proven with research. And but I'd like to bring you both now together to create a conversation between, to have a conversation between the two of you, to bring both of your topics together. And so both of you mentioned, very strong. We know the data. We know the laws, and how can we implement this on the grassroots level? We touched upon this as well. I mean, despite the laws, despite the data, we are still lacking the implementation on many levels. And I'm not talking about the top; I'm talking about the grassroots level. So maybe both of you would like to. Maybe Nabaneeta, you just can start and just giving some ideas of how to address this. How can we simplify this and shifting really the power from governance power to grassroots, power. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigitte. Actually, a very important question, because how to unpack? There are multiple issues, there are multiple data points. Everything. People now, be it published or not published, we know many things, right? But I would like to emphasize on the crux of the matter, right? And I just wanted to tell you to bring 3 points to the table. First is why this nexus persists. We discussed. We realized that there are 3 points which are pertinent. One is unequal power structure. Why it is still exists? Because we have unequal power structure. Women and marginalized group are excluded from decision making, be it climate, be it peace, and be it the processes which requires their availability, their inputs, their participation. Because of unequal power structure, this participation, this process is denying their participation. So first point I would like to say, unequal power structure, which is very important, which has to be actually neutralized. The second is resource conflict. The most important thing again is resource conflict. Climate stress has actually multiplied the droughts, flood, land degradation. This has intensified the competition, often hitting women the hardest. So women are now hit hardest because we have resource conflict. That's the second point. The third point I would like to bring is siloed policies. Our policies are in silos. They are not interacting with each other. They are not landscape. They're not talking about each and every aspect under the landscape. Climate, gender, and peace are often treated separately. But please believe me, these are the things which has to be discussed together. And because they are in silos, it is preventing to integrated solutions. We need integrated solution. So now I would like, as you said, as you asked me, I would like to actually deliberate upon how we can break the nexus. So the first point I would like to bring to the table is redistribute power. We need to ensure, as Subrata has already mentioned, We need to ensure women's leadership in climate governance and peace negotiations whenever we are working in field, in villages, in forest areas, in areas between forest, in areas in conflict areas. We need to ensure whichever committee is available, women leadership is must. We need to also support indigenous and rural women's land rights to reduce the conflict triggers, because the person who has land has everything in with him, to his side, to her side. Since women do not have land rights, indigenous women, land rights for indigenous women is further below in India. So we need to support indigenous and rural women's land rights so that they are able to access the benefits of schemes, policies, and so on and so forth. The second point I would like to bring, we need to transfer the funding models. The funding models, the way currently the funding is happening, it has to transfer, it has to change. We have to shift resources towards feminist grassroots movements, like Subrata has also mentioned. We have to see that we are funding the those projects only which combines land defense, climate resilience, and peace building, and it is taken together, not in silos. We need to move beyond short term humanitarian aid for a long term resilience investment. So short term things for humanitarian aid should be no. There has to be long term resilience investment. We need to integrate policies. That's my third point. Mainstream gender across climate adaptation and peace building frameworks. Whatever frameworks are there, mainstreaming gender has to be embedded in all of them. We need to develop cross-sectoral monitoring systems which can track gender impacts and climate stress and conflicts. And it has to be reported on a regular basis, on a real-time basis, so that immediate actions can be taken. And this can be used as a decision support system, which can help the program people to divert their programs. So it can be also used for diverting funding to those who need the most. The fourth point which I like to bring to the table is strengthen local resilience. There is a need to support community-driven early warning systems and climate-smart practices, which can help the communities to safeguard themselves and also adapt to the climate change, because climate change is a long-term process. It is happening, it will keep on happening, it will keep on there. It will be there with us, right? We also need to empower women's cooperative and resource management to reduce the tension which is currently there, the unrest which is currently there among the communities. So, breaking this nexus is less about separating gender, climate, and peace. I would say it is more about disrupting the cycle of vulnerability. When we will be able to ensure women's rights, climate resilience, and peace buildings, and if we are able to do so, it will advance together. And this will reinforce the loop of inequality and instability, which then will be dismantled. So this is the framework which I wanted to bring to the table, Brigitte, and thank you for this question. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Nabaneeta, for this really, really important insight. Again, it always boils down to participation, inclusion, and the funding of the right projects, organization, or communities. And Subrata, would you like to give some feedback and respond to Nabaneeta to bring a new perspective on this?
Yes, this as we have discussed that in my discussion, that there are a lot of things we can do, but the thing is that we need to do this kind of enabling environment. Unless until we do this enabling environment, you can do anything. So enabling environment means a lot of things that you have to bring in plate. Then things will be changing gradually. Like I would say that we have to dismantle patriarchy first, And this kind of patriarchy we need to we can explore within the family, within the community, within the state system, and within the national international system. That needs to be dismantled at any cost. Even if there are lots of progressive European countries, some of the other highly developed countries, they are also they have very good policies, but at the same time they are not allowing women to become equal partner in the decision making process. I'm giving you two to three countries example. One is Canada, and another is US, and some other countries. What about Canada and US? A few months back, US president said there should not be any place of women in the foreign policy. So this is very, very crucial. It's not only the foreign policy, but also in domestic policy, he will not allow to do any kind of equal participation of women in this kind of decision-making process. And in the earlier administration, the previous president was signed this kind of declaration that women's equal representation, equal decision making process, they will be giving this kind of opportunity. Even Biden has ensured that most of the women, they will be leading in diplomatic missions, they will be leading in domestic decision making process, and he also given charge to a highly leadership positions in the US government. For a long time, Canada has been doing this kind of thing, saying that they will be going for foreign policy, feminist foreign policy. They'll be implementing principles of feminist foreign policy, and they are one of the early phase of countries who are claiming that they will be implementing this. But few months back, Carney said radically, he said that he discarded this kind of idea. He said we will be doing all these kind of things, women empowerment, all these kind of things, but we will not allow officially the feminist principles of foreign policy in our system. So this is kind of things are happening. That means from the top, you will see that the top leaders and the top countries, especially the highly developed countries, they are discarding this kind of ideas. This is the one kind of things I need to do, and for this we need to ensure the gender responsive governance at all level, from local level governance to domestic policy programs, as well as international level. While we are talking about feminist foreign policy is not for only women. Feminist foreign policy is considering equal opportunity for all men and women at every spaces of their decision making, freedom, justice, as well as rights. This is the first one. The second thing is this change of systems. Change of system is extremely difficult. Look, I'm telling you, 200 years of exploitation, British rule was there in colonial rule was there in India, but still we are following this. And many years back, one British people came to India and said and ridiculed us that we have developed this kind of administration to to consolidate our exploitative system, and only for this kind of things, nothing else. We don't have any grand objectives for serving the people. Now still you are following this kind of things. They are ridiculing us, and we are saying this. Then in 1857 or 1888, there are some of the laws still are there. Government is following this still, all these kind of things. So this is one kind of things that we have to dismantle, this kind of things, refuse these things, colonial mindset, patriarchy, colonial patriarchy, and rigid system that allow and indulge violence against women and inequality, gender inequality. That we have to change the situation, and at the same time we have to make it sure accountability, public accountability of the public authority in every decision government is taking. We have to make them accountable at all levels. Without this, nothing will happen in our. And for this, we are the citizens. We will be able to fight it out. That if you say these things, we have to maintain this. And if we have this constitutional law, we have to follow this. Otherwise, things will not happen. Another thing is that I would like to say that women's agency, extremely important women's agency in every at our level, local, state, national, and international level. Women's agency are extremely important. From my own experience, I can tell you that in one province of India I worked, and in which not only the common people, but also the college lecturers, principals, they don't have any idea about the gender, what is the inequality, how they are suppressing. Even women don't know that this is the thing that we can shout, this is the thing we can claim for our right and freedom within the family, within the community, within our workplace. But after giving them training, they are saying that we now understand the things that we have been suffering for thousands of years, that we have not been putting this on the table. This is very, very important. And the last point is that political leadership. Political leadership is extremely important because of the decision making process. If you are not part of the decision making process at the highest level of parliament, then things will not happen at the ground level. So things need to be happen at the ground level. Once you go to the at the top level of the decision making, it is now it is parliament. That is extremely important for this kind of situation,
Um,
to rectify and to make it sure that we are all equal and have equal access to resources and opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Subrata. I think we are all aware of the crux of the problems. We know the sources, we know what we have to do, and yet we struggle with that change. And I would think, unfortunately, we have to end. And I wish we would have time to discuss more. But I think a fourth one I would just throw in there, and we don't have time to discuss this, is probably education as well, and not only education for women, but education for men. Because the thing is, it's one thing to know the crux; it's another thing to have solutions. The most important is how do we implement them, right? So if you have a structure where people are not willing to break, they're comfortable in wherever they are, why would they give up their position maybe of power, whatever, and mostly of power? People are not willing to give up their comfortable niche they create for themselves. And I agree with you, it's a long history of colonialism and patriarchy, etc. But it's very, very hard to break through that. And I would think that education is fundamental to all of this. But unfortunately, we have to end here. And the other thing I wanted to say, I like that you brought in also the responsibility of the Europe and North America. But even here in these countries, in these two continents, we see there are a lot of problems still. There are similar patterns. It's just the environment is just different. But again, unfortunately, we have to finish here. I would love to continue with both of you. And so maybe you both want to have a quick final word here, call to action. Would you like to contribute? But it has to be very brief because we are already over our time limit. Nabaneeta, may I just give you the first word again, and to close up our conversation here?
See, the problem, the challenges are already identified. We need intent. We need intent to implement, and the process should be gender transformative. We need to see that men folks are trained so that they can understand first that if 50% population is behind, nothing is going to take us to the 5 trillion economy, right? So men folks need to be trained, and they have to be trained enough so that they allow women to come forward, take the position of power which has been deprived, right? They have been deprived for that. So this is a intent, strong intent is required, and then it will all be easy. That is what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Subrata, very brief, please.
Yes. One thing I would like to mention that in 2011, I had one research, and it was gender equality, engaging men and boys for gender equality. So as we said, as we discussed, that when we are talking about gender equality, most of the time we forget that gender equality will happen only women's movement. No, so there should be always clubbing together with the boys and men. So it will be highly successful. I did the research in 2011. Right now, in 2024, after so many years, I found that there is a big organization, OSCE, in Europe. They are promoting this idea. I said to the organizer that I have promoted this idea and did the research in India on this. And I found, as I am feeling very happy that you are also following the same path, then they are very appreciated this. And it happens that if we do this kind of things at the grassroots level, ground level, we will get lots of success stories if we bring together boys and men for this kind of gender equality at the grassroots level.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I thank you so much, Subrata. Again, we unfortunately have to close here, and I would like to thank you both for being on this panel and sharing both of your expertise with our audience and with We the World. And so our sincere gratitude. And to honor the expertise you both bring here and you have shared with us today, I'd like to remind the purpose here. I'd like to remind everyone, our audience, of the purpose of this gathering. So We the World is not simply a convening platform. We the World is an action network. And if today's dialogue resonated, here is how you can engage. You can take action through our 11 campaigns for change, subscribe to Trend, join our global action letter. You can also volunteer with us, and you can support our gender responsive climate initiative. So we have 11 campaigns. You can look up on our website, www.we.net. You can also contribute to We the World at we.net/donate. Because we all know that building community requires infrastructure, it requires policy reform, it requires strategic engagement, and it requires each of us. So thank you again to both of you, Dr. Nabaneeta and Subrata Banerjee, and thank you all for joining us across continents, and thank you for being part of We the World. Thank you so much to both of you.
Namaste.